Hello friends! Today I'm going to share with you a way to document the same kind of trip that you might do every year, but we are going to change it up quite a bit. And you might recognize this layout because I made this one a couple weeks ago and talked about some ways to change it up from year to year with the types of photos you take and stuff like that. And today I'm going to go with a completely different paper pack. So I will show you the unsuspecting pack I'm going to use in just a little bit. So this one had some flip-flops that go like this and like this, and I want to talk you through the different photos I'm using. So in this one was from last year, and in the video I talked about why I selected specific videos that the specific photos that I did, so that they tell sort of a different angle of the story than all the other years that we do this camping trip. And this is from this camping trip this year, which was just very recently, and so I selected this photo, which is quite different from any. Of course, we've got paddleboarding. I was trying to be careful not to include too many paddleboarding ones in this one because I collect quite a few paddleboarding pictures because that's a lot of what we do there. But I definitely wanted to include this because this is my son and his BFF, and this was him and his dad's first time coming with us, and they had so much fun. It was his first time on a paddleboard, so of course I had to include that, right? By the way, these are all going to be portrait orientation photos. I included a few of the 3x4 in landscape orientation, but I'm not cutting them apart. I'm keeping them as 4x6 portrait, and you'll see why when you see the sketch that I'm using. And in this one too, they're all portrait orientation. And a lot of times when we're taking pictures on our phones these days, a lot of photos end up as portrait because that's just the easiest way to, you know, pull up our phone and try to snap a picture real quick when we're in the moment. But so that's why I chose this one. And in this video, I talked about the hammocks and how they spent hours and hours in the hammocks and built a 5-story tall one, but I didn't get a picture of it in this year. I just got the 3 tall. So I was very sure to be intentional, walk over, get a really good shot of all of them poking their heads up and looking at the camera and playing on the 5-story tall hammocks. And oh my gosh, you guys, these things were worth their weight in gold. 20 bucks a pop is very well worth all of the hours and hours of fun they had in these things. It just was like one of the highlights of the trip. They loved those things. So very intentional about taking that photo. I also got some more paddleboard pictures because this was the first time we took our dog, well, my husband took our dog on the paddleboard. So he's, you know, he's a husky. He can be a little bit rambunctious and hyper, but he is 3 now, and I was so proud of him and how well he behaved and not super rambunctious as last year on this trip. And he actually stayed on the paddleboard and did pretty well for being a very active little guy. So that we definitely had to document. And this one, just chilling. He just chilled, which he didn't do last year. He just chilled sometimes, which was really nice. So my hubby just kind of fallen asleep with him there, you know, just chilling. I don't have a ton of pictures of the kids because this was the first year where we kind of just let them go off on their own. I mean, they're not that far from us, and it's not a real big campground or, you know, area. So we kind of let them go off on their own a little bit more, and I didn't get a ton of pictures with them, but I, you know, talked about a little bit of what they did in the journaling. But I did make sure to get a picture of them. This is our friend Nate, and he always, he's like a gourmet cook and always makes us Spam, hash, and eggs. I know that's not gourmet, but he loves to cook like big meals. So he cooked for all of us the Spam, hash, and eggs. So I was very intentional to get a picture of him there. This was the first time I went hiking. A lot of people go hiking on this camping trip each year, but I hadn't gone, so got a picture of my husband and I at the top of where we went. We did a pretty good long hike, and then the group of us with the doggos on the hike. My dog did not get into the picture. And then my son and his friend playing on their own. They did a lot of playing on their own. And then I also did my journaling on here, and it works really well when you have a lot of space. Like I have a lot of sky in here, so I made it fit in the sky. Or in one of my previous layouts, I did, actually I think it might have been this one. Yeah, I did the journaling on top of the trees because it was mostly green, but because it was still a little bit hard to read, I added just a little bit of a screened back black background to it so you could read it a little bit better. So let me show you the sketch in the paper. Okay, so I am using this brand new paper. It's from the Lights of Aurora suite. And so it looks like it is, you know, the Northern Lights. Look at how gorgeous this is. This is very, I think, unsuspecting for a camping trip with lots of green trees and everything, but I'm going to show you why I selected this and why I think it's going to work. And let's just cross our fingers that it works. Here's the backs of all of the papers. We do have green. I have some pink in my photos. We've got this dark color that kind of goes with some of the, I know this is dark purple, but it kind of goes with the dark greens and browns in my pictures. And then this is the layout that I selected. So this is from the Creative Design Team Sketchbook Volume 3. And that Volume 3 sketchbook actually has sketches that only use patterned paper that are 6x6 or smaller. So it's designed to be used with 6x6 paper pads. Of course, you could always use 12x12 or any size paper that you have and just cut them down, but it's designed so that you can use pieces that you can cut from a 6x6 paper. And I really liked this layout, and I've seen a couple of the other girls use this layout as well, or this sketch. If I can find them, I will link them down below for you, and I really like how they all turned out. So that is why I printed even my 3x4s together as a 4x6, and that's a little tip to keep in mind when maybe you're using a sketch but you're like, shoot, this doesn't have any landscape photos and I want landscape photos. Well, you can print two landscape photos together on one portrait to take up the same footprint. Or even if you're going to cut them apart, you could make this a 4x6 and then still add two 3x4s here if you wanted, or even, you know, a 4x4 and two 2x2s. So think about what size photos can fit into the same size footprint. And if you're not sure how to collage your photos like this, I have several videos showing different ways to do it. My favorite app to use is Pic Collage. There is a subscription fee to that now. There wasn't when I went and got it, but there is now. But I really like it. You can also use Canva. I have a video using that. Project Life app, Print a Size app. There's lots of ways to do that. So I'll link some tutorials. I'll link my whole photo printing playlist down below so you can find all of those types of videos and more. I do print them all at home on my Epson PM400. So let's look at the sketch and kind of figure out how I want to arrange my papers. Okay, so I have laid my photos out how I like them according to the sketch. Some things to point out. I have the 3x4 stacked here and 3x4 stacked here. I thought it looked a little bit busy to have them all here. At first I thought of having a whole column of 3x4s, but it just felt a little bit busy. Of course, it might help once I add my patterned paper. And then I also hid the other 3x4 under here to keep it from feeling as busy because we have a lot of photos going on here. I also put the flip flap over here because we don't want it here, because then the flip flap hangs out just a teeny tiny bit more than the photo underneath it. So I didn't want it hanging off the edge of the page protector. So I had to put it either in this column or this column to prevent that. So I just decided to put it over here because the group photo from hiking is under here, and then it's right underneath the one of this hiking photo. So I just kept those together. So this is how I want them arranged. The other thing I paid attention to is we've got the pinky purple here and the pinky purple here, which are opposite each other. And that is what inspired me to use this paper pack, is that pinky color. So I'm thinking that, let's see. I think I want to have the busier papers on the top and bottom because this is where the title is going to go. So I want a more plain paper there. So we'll see. The other thing is I could do the busier paper in the middle and just have one strip of the busier paper. None of them are super busy, but they're, I guess I should say more colorful. And then the top and bottom ones being the more solid color ones. But let's play around with it first with having the more colorful ones across the top and across the bottom, and then we'll keep this one more to one color so that the title stands out. But if it doesn't look good and doesn't work out, then I can always try something else. And it is like a lot of these, they're a little bit similar looking. So that's one thing I was worried about, is that if I use these for two spots, they're gonna look a little bit too similar. So let me see, there's this one that has a little more pink, and that could maybe be good up here, and then maybe across here. And then let's see, this one is pretty too. This one has a little pink. This one's feeling a little bit more busy. I'm wondering if actually, maybe that one feels like it should be on the top because it's kind of dripping down. I don't know if that even makes sense. But let's see. Oh, this one is pretty. I like that. I like the pink in that. So let me see actually if I want to swap that. I think I'm liking that. So let's see what it looks like if we bring in one of these other colors. So we've got green, which could work because we have green in our photos, but it is a little bit different green. And I think I want to bring in some green trees and stuff, which I might use this paper to do that. So let's set that aside. I'm wondering if maybe we do this, if that's going to bring in too much pink. I do kind of like it though. If we do this, I feel like the whole thing's going to get a little bit dark, and I feel like I can also use this to cut out some accent pieces. So I'll set that aside. And then the blue is okay. It goes with, you know what, actually now that I have it there, I think I really like that. It matches the sky, it goes with the hammocks, the sky in all of these photos. It kind of makes the water look a little bluer than green. I might like that. And then I can use the pink to also pull in some accents. So just for fun, I want to see what it would look like if instead of having two colorful spots, we have just one, and maybe doing something like this. And you know what? I don't like it as well. I feel like it's not as balanced. I feel like having the colorful and colorful kind of balances things out. It is a little bit busy, but I think I like it. I think it could work. This is totally out of the box, but I think that this could work. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut these and we'll see how it looks. Okay, you guys, I got everything down and I'm having a change of heart. I don't love this on the top and the bottom. And I actually consulted with my friend Erin. You guys know Erin at Crafty Concepts with Erin. I sent her some pictures and she agreed. And so we tried some things out. I kept sending pictures back and forth. Isn't it great to have crafty friends you can do that with? So I'm leaning toward actually changing this one out because, you know, this is the sky, the Aurora Borealis night sky, right? So it should be up in the sky. So I think having two plain ones on the bottom could be good. So I've already got them glued down. I'm gonna have to do some prying. It's gonna be okay. I did get this loose with my handy dandy little Cricut spatula. You can tell it is very used. It gets all gummed up and then I have to clean it every once in a while, but it works wonders for getting things up. I'm thinking I'm gonna have a mountain and tree scene down here. So before I decide what to do with this, I want to pull out my dies. So I've got the Scenic Adventures and the new Light and Wonder dies, which are the dies that actually go with this paper. But I keep them in the same little packaging because I didn't get the stamp set for the Light and Wonder. I just have the Scenic Adventure stamps. So I keep both of the die sets in this one. So this is the new one, Light and Wonder, and it is so amazing. And then this one actually goes with it. But since I have room on this one and this one's really tight, I decided to put that on the other one just for storing. But look at how cool, if there's big trees, and this doesn't have a cut line at the bottom. None of these do. So this does not have a cut line at the bottom. It just cuts the line of trees. You might have seen me use this one before. There's mountains, and then this creates like layers on the mountains. This creates like just a little hillside and a lake, and there's clouds. Lots of really fun stuff. If you did want to get one set like this, I probably would recommend this one just because it also has trees. So it's got the little double trees and the small tree that you can use with it. But I do a lot of outdoor layouts, as you probably know, and I was so giddy about this set too, and I'm so excited about these. So what I'm thinking is I am going to use these two dies, and this is going to create a mountain. So the other one, the Scenic Adventures, has this big mountain that has all these little cuts in it to create the texture, and then this little one too. This can also double as a rock. But I want to use this one just for something a little bit different, and I'm thinking that I'm going to use my little black piece. So I ended up cutting my little mats here, which are in the cutting guide. The sketchbook has all of the dimensions and everything for you, so you know exactly how to cut everything. So I cut 2 at 4 1/4 wide, and then this is what was left over, and then I had to cut into another 12 by 12 sheet to get the third one. So I'm going to put this strip to good use and run it through my die cut machine. And so we'll run it through once and twice, and it will reach just about almost all the way over, and I can just snip that little extra bit that's going to be there, and then we'll get our mountain range. And I'm hoping that just one 12-inch strip, I can cut it into pieces, so have a cut here, 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 and here. I think that should work if I'm doing the math right, because we've got 4 1/4, 4 1/4, 4 1/4. We should have more than enough to go all the way across. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to use the green to cut my trees. Stick in there. I'm using the green, and I think I'm going to use, see how it's kind of ombre? I really love that. So it's got like a lighter side here, a darker side here. I want to cut it from the darker side just to give it a little bit of darkness, because the trees are pretty dark. I know it's not an exact match, but I hope it's all going to work out well. So I don't know, since I'm going to have the black and the green, that's going to just help determine what color I want this to be. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these so I can try it out with whatever I use down here. Okay, so here is a mountain range. How cool is that? I think this plays nicely with the black that we have there. I'm going to have to cut another piece here because this is 6 inches wide. We're going to need another little bitty piece here, so we will go ahead and add that. But I just want to check for the colors, because I'm thinking I'm probably not going to want green here because that's going to be too close to this green. But let me grab another piece, and I'm just going to try it. And let's slip this back here. And I like it, but I think that this is just, it's too much green right here. So let's see what else we have. We've got the really dark purple, but I don't think that's going to give enough pop between the mountains and this. I could use this for the mountains too, but then I still need to choose a color here. So I don't like that one. The pink would be my next instinct because that's the color. That's why I chose this paper, is because of this pink and matching my photos. And I think that looks good. And I will, you know, build this up and have stuff here. There's going to be a title on here, some other little clustering. I think the purple probably could work as well, but I don't really have purple in my photos. I have the pink in my photos, but if you have photos with purple, I think the purple could be really nice too. I could also try swapping these and having the pink in the middle and maybe the blue down here, but I feel like the blue does a good job of kind of breaking it up because we've got like warm, mostly warm colors here, and then this is a warm color, and then the cool color down here. And as Erin said, she liked having the blue in the middle because it felt kind of like a lake just kind of floating in the middle of the page, just like the lake in the photos. So I'm thinking I like the pink. So unfortunately, I wasted some of my paper. Another part of me was thinking, you know, I could really complicate things and see if I like this pattern up here better than this one, but I don't want to have to tear apart more of my page than I have to. Let's see if I can very carefully lift this up and just see. I used my Scotch ATG gun, which is a pretty strong, if you have one of these, you know it's a pretty strong adhesive. It's hard to get it up. But I really like that adhesive mostly for that reason, because it's not going anywhere once your scrapbook page is in your layout. Now I think I can get this up though. All right, we got that up pretty cleanly. So let's see, I would have to cut it down a little bit. Let's see what that would look like though. And then all of this is going to be hidden. And then our pink will be down here, and that's the full 6 inches with this overlapping it. You know, I think I like this one because it looks more like a night sky. It's more obvious than this. This just looks like a really pretty colorful background, but you can't tell what it is when it's like that. So I'm gonna see if I can cleanly get all of them up. I know I'm just making so much extra work for myself. Might as well just start over, but we're gonna try to work through this. Do you guys ever do this? Do you tear a layout apart when you're not liking the direction that it's going? Let me know down in the comments below. All right, I cut out more die cut pieces, but before I get to that, I just wanted to point out, I showed this to you earlier, and this is actually part of a new travel guide that the creative design team and I have put together. It's more than sketches. There are several sketches, but more than that, it's travel tips for pre, during, and post travel to think about it from a scrapbooking perspective. There is a whole description over on our website, and you can purchase it over there. It's an instant download. But these two layouts are the layouts that I contributed to the layout and sketch portion. The sketches for these with the dimensions and everything are in there, but it's so much more than a sketchbook. So I just wanted to point that out, and the creative design team and I will be doing a collaboration all week long. My collab video will be going up next week, but just wanted to point that out since this is kind of, again, a travel layout. It's not the collaboration specifically, but just wanted to let you know that that guide is now available. So the link will be down in the description below at cdtcreatives.com. So I did end up prying the patterned paper off from the bottom sections, but the top sections, I just put that paper right on top. So unfortunately, I did waste a couple sheets of paper, but it's a good thing that these paper packs come with lots of pieces of each pattern. So I still have several left over. So I had to piece this little piece together. So I've got one long 6-inch piece here, and then I'll piece just that little tiny bit right there, and I'm going to make sure that they kind of line up so they look like they're on the same plane. And then when I add the smaller trees from the Scenic Adventures set, I'm just going to put a little tree right in front of that seam, and you'll never know that it's there. So I'm going to go ahead and do this across the entire layout. All right, I cut out some die cuts here. Now these trees are what I showed you in that Scenic Adventures die set. And then these ones here are from 2 different die sets. They are a couple of my favorite sprigs. You guys know me and sprigs. So we've got Christmas Greenery, which is a brand new set that just released this week, and it's got a ton of different dies. This is a great one, and sprig, and then this one goes with this, and then a bunch of them cut out all of these little pieces. I love the stamp set too, because you've got like the flowers and the leaves that you can stamp in the line art to help color them in if you don't like to color. This one goes in here, so I'm excited to use this on Christmas cards. So this one is that die, and then this one was released a little bit ago, either in the annual catalog or the January mini, I can't remember. But Beautiful Motifs has some great sentiments, and then I love these background pieces. But there's also some great leaves, and so this one goes with this set, and actually this die goes with it too. These ones I actually keep out I have a little magnetic die piece that just sits on my desk in front of me, and so these ones actually go right on here so that I can easily access them, along with a bunch of my other favorite sprig dies. Christmas time, I'm pretty sure this one is going to end up out with all of these too, but this is my all season ones. So that goes with this Stampin' die set. You can get the stamps or the dies separately or together at a bundled price. So that's where those came from. And I wanted to mix these because since I don't have a lot of green, I could mix in like maybe some garden green to bring out the actual color of the leaves, but I want to keep with the green that is in this kit, which actually isn't even green at all. It's Lost Lagoon, but with all of these colors, I mean, it's like a greenish blue, but it definitely reads more green. It's almost like that Close to My Heart juniper that we had with Close to My Heart. So I cut the pine sprigs out of the dark side of the paper, and then these ones out of the light side of the paper. And I cut 3 of each so I could create a little visual triangle. But out of that 6x6 paper, I tried to get, well, I did get all of these out of the one 6x6 paper, but that left me with little scraps. So I cut some of them, just portions of the sprig. So you can see this one is cut off, this one is really cut off, and then this one is a little bit cut off, but that's okay. I just wanted to be able to tell that they're all the same piece, and I'll have them in the different clusters around the layout, and it doesn't matter that they're not all the full size. So it's a little tip when you're working with scraps and you don't have enough for a full die, you can always just cut a little piece of it. So before I do that, I wanted to figure out my title. I was going through a bunch of my title sets, got this out of my Close to My Heart stash, and either one of these really would work, Lazy Days of Summer or Summer Adventures. So I wanted to see how they each fit, and if I put it up like this lazy kind of fits in this little wing of the dovetail really nicely, but I might have a cluster there. And the sketch has the title more on the bottom. Not that I have to follow the sketch exactly, but it's not going to fit if I put it at the bottom. But this one will. So I'm kind of leaning toward this one just so I could stamp it here. And this is light enough that I could stamp it directly onto my paper. So I'm going to go ahead and for now just put this here. I don't want to stamp it quite yet, but I'm going to put that there just as a reminder as I place my little, sprigs around the page. And actually, before I start, I want to do a little bit of an inking treatment. So I just got scrap paper here, and I'm going to grab my Lost Lagoon, and I don't want to do a lot because I don't want to lose the color of the light pieces that I cut, because I'm thinking that these trees are going to layer like behind here. So then we've got the dark of this tree line here and then the light here. But I like to do a little bit of inking on these just because it helps to bring out all of these little lines that you see here. I've got a bunch of these little pieces I've got to poke out, but it just helps to define, but I don't want to make it a lot darker. So I'm just going to like barely tap, and you can see how I'm kind of getting some of that off, and then I'm going to very gently come on. And again, I don't want to add a lot of color, but hopefully you can see the ink kind of catches in those little lines from the die and just helps to make them stand out more. So I really like that. And I'm going to do that to all of my die cut pieces. Here's how those die cuts turned out. I'm really happy with them. They still retained the colors that they were originally, but you can really see the details now. So these larger sprigs, I'm going to put one of each in my 3 clusters. I'm thinking I'm going to have one about here. I want a couple over here. I'm changing the placement a little bit from the sketch because of the way my layout turned out. Of course, the sketch has suggestions for photo placement, and embellishment clusters, but you always are at liberty to change it because it is your layout, right? So I kept the all of the trees the lighter color. So I mentioned that I used 1 6x6 green paper for the sprigs. That was just for those 6 sprigs. For the trees, I used the light side of the papers that I used to trim that row of trees that are on the bottom. So that big line of trees across the bottom, I stuck to just the dark side of that 6x6 paper, and then I used the other side to cut most of those trees. Okay, I found a couple more stamps in my stash. I've got this Let's Kayak, and there's this life jacket here that I'm thinking could go here with them on the paddle boards. And then Aurora Scrapbooking, I stamped out this one right here and die cut it out. And I was considering using colors, but I have so much color on the page that I thought, you know what, why don't I just leave them black and white? This one, it would be hard to color. I could have stamped it on a colored paper, but then this one I could have colored. And then I started thinking, you know what, let's just see what it looks like if I just do black and white. And I think that's gonna really give it like some breathing room and some white space that's needed. And I really like that. I like having like a piece that kind of tops the sprigs. I love having sprigs from like behind something, behind the photos in this case, and then something kind of as a topper to cover where they're going under. You don't have to, but I think it looks nice. And in this case, I like that, and I'll probably pop these up onto foam tape. And then I started thinking, what about doing the same with the title instead of stamping it right on there? Because I think I would want 3 points of white. Now, having it here, I don't know. I'm not loving this. I might have to figure out something else. I could just cut this off. This is one of the tags that was from a paper pumpkin die set. It was from last year. It's this one here, and it came with this, and there's a Mary in there. I just stash all of my paper pumpkin dies in here. They have a release every quarter that coordinates with that quarter's paper pumpkin kits. I love this one. This is this quarter, and you can make a strawberry with the strawberry topper, or leave out the seeds and just cut out the outline and make it an acorn with the acorn topper. Isn't that clever? And then the little leaf for the acorn, and then a little flower if you're using it as a strawberry. I just thought that was so clever. You can't get these unless you are a Paper Pumpkin subscriber, but if you also like card making, these are the paper pumpkin kits, and these dies are so, so good. I'm not loving this as a tag, so let's go ahead and cut off this loop, and then it's just a stitched rectangle, and that looks good. Although I'm still not totally sure about it. Just the way it's on a rectangle is a little bit funny with that dovetail piece. But let me move these sprigs up so that the life jacket is spaced out a little bit more. So there's a little more space between those white pieces. But now it feels like there's too much space above the title. I feel like this needs to come down a little bit, and I'm just not liking it. So let's go to plan B. All right, I die cut just a plain circle in white, and I'm taking my Wink of Stella. This is like a shimmer brush. It's really, really shimmery. It's got kind of like a silvery shimmer, and I am just coloring all over it. And this is going to turn into a moon. How perfect to have a moon coming out from behind the mountains, right? So I got it on there. It goes on pretty thick, and it looks a little funny. It's uneven, but you know what? That's how the moon is. I kind of swirled around in circles too to make it look like there's craters, and I love it. But if you look at the other white pieces, they have the black lines from the stamp. So I'm just taking my black ink pad and going around the edge of the moon just to give it that same look of the black outline. And now we have our third point of white on the layout, and I love it. I'm going to lift it up later so you can see all of that shimmer. So now I can stamp my title directly onto that piece. For the other one, I put it in my MISTI and stamped it down twice to make sure it got a really good impression, but I can't do that with the MISTI on my layout because my layout's too big for my mini MISTI. So I'm putting foam under my layout and under my test piece. I want to test it first just to make sure I get a really good impression. I'm holding it down just for a moment so that the ink has time to soak in. And that was a really good impression. This stamp is seasoned well, so I'm going to take my chances, and moment of truth, it is perfect. I love it. All right, time for finishing touches. I decided to move my flip flap over here because my little embellishment overlapped that other one. And you know what? It's going to work out fine. I was worried about it being too far to the edge, but I added that second border around my photos. So now it won't be right up against the edge, or overlapping the edge, I should say. And I think it'll work out well. And I also like that my pink shirt is kind of in the middle of the layout since we have a lot of pink in the paper on the sides of the layout. I'm using these iridescent gems that go along with this suite in the pink to add just a little bit of sparkle to my layout. And here is a close-up of the finished layout. You know, it probably is not my first choice in paper in how to perfectly scrapbook these photos, but you know what? I have so many outdoor photos and they all start to look the same after a while using the same types of papers. So I do really love that this is just something so different. And I hope that you enjoyed it and got some good ideas as well. If you'd like to see close-ups and still shots, I have all of those on my social media channels. It's all linked down below. And if you'd like to see the process video for the layout I showed earlier, that's linked here on the screen. So go ahead and click that and I'll see you over there. Bye.